Hi, my name is Rohan and I hope you're all doing well. If you're thinking of starting investment, then this is the video for you. Watch till the end to find out how I plan my investments. People kept asking me about how to start investment. So, நான் இந்த video போடலான்னு plan பண்ணேன். It's basically to share my opinions about investment, shares, funds, etc. By the way, நான் financial advisor கிடையாது. This video is not a financial advice at all. This is just a guideline. This is my opinion of investments and the market from my experience. So let's say you want to start with investment thing and கொஞ்சம் கையில பைசா இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கலாம். It's probably not enough to buy a house, but have something that you want to put into something called investment. Investment is risky. அது எப்படினாக்க அது ஒரு casinoக்கு போற மாதிரி because nothing is guaranteed. So there are 12 things to understand that will help you find out how to do things right. And again, this is more a guideline than recommendation. இப்போ what happens to the money saved over time? Save பண்றதுனால money என்ன ஆகும் அப்படின்னு பார்க்கலாம். Your money loses value over time thanks to inflation. In India, inflation is around 5%. That means every year the stuff costs 5% more than the previous year. For example, சொல்லணும்னாக்க 1980ல ஒரு cup of coffee 25 cents, and in 2020 the same cup of coffee is around $2. அதுதான் inflation in action. So let's say you have 1,000 rupees in hand right now. So next 10 years, if you just stash it somewhere, சும்மா அதை எடுத்து உங்க லாக்கர்ல இல்லாட்டி பெட்டுக்கு வைக்கிறீங்கன்னு வச்சுக்கலாம். This 1,000 rupees you forget about for the next 10 years. After 10 years, this 1,000 rupees is not going to be 1,000 rupees anymore because everything would have increased over time by 5 to 8% inflation. So the value of money would have fallen. Ilya? It means that you will lose money over time. So this is not good. If you put this 1,000 rupees into your savings account, let's say அதுக்கு ஒரு 3-4% interest rate இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கலாம், which means your 1,000 rupees goes up by 3 to 4% every year. And because inflation is about 5 to 8%, you still lose money by saving. இதுதான் ஆகும் when you save the money. So நீங்க கேட்கலாம், so what do we do? How do we stop money from losing its value over time? இப்போ நம்ம imagine பண்ணலாம். Let's say that you have a savings account which has got interest rate of 10%. அந்த மாதிரி எந்த ஒரு savings accountமே கிடையாது. இது சும்மா நம்மளோட argumentக்காக வச்சுக்கலாம். சும்மா imagine பண்ணலாம் that a savings account has got 10%. That would be slightly higher than the inflation rate. So your money in savings will go up by 10%. So the value of money will probably be the same. Roughly அதே வேல்யூவாக தான் இருக்கும். ஏன்னாக்க இப்போ 8% 9% inflation இருக்கு, 10% interest கிடைக்கிறது சேவிங்ஸில் அப்படின்னாக்க வேல்யூ இஸ் ஆல்மோஸ்ட் த சேம் இல்லையா? அந்த 1,000 rupeesக்கு வேல்யூ 1,000 rupeeஸாக தான் இருக்கும். இதை நம்ம கவர் பண்ணலாம் in later part of the video. So if you want to make money, how do we do it? Now let's talk about savings account. இந்த 10% interest rate savings account பற்றி பேசலாம். நான் சொன்ன மாதிரி இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு அக்கௌண்ட்டே கிடையாது. சும்மா நம்ம அதை ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிள் எடுத்துக்கலாம். No savings bank will give 10% or more interest. சரியா? So suppose இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கலாம், which means every year we make 10% of the value. கரெக்டா? So for example, ஒரு 1,000 rupees or 100 rupees நான் அந்த savings accountல போடுறேன். By year 1, I will have 110 rupees. And by year 2, I will have 121 rupees. Because it's 10% of 110 rupees, not 100 rupees. Yeah? And by end of the year, 10 வருஷம் கழிச்சு, you will have 259 rupees. So இதில் நம்ம inflation adjust பண்ணோம்னாக்க, it will be somewhere around 210 rupees னு வச்சுக்கலாம். This is super good because we have more than doubled the money that we had 10 years ago. 100 rupees இருந்தது, 10 yearsல அது 210 ஆச்சு. இதுதான் is called as compounding. But sadly, இந்த மாதிரியான savings account இல்லை. So savings accountல போடுறதுனால you don't increase the value of money. You only decrease it. We do have other options to try and get us to the magical number of this like 10% thing. And that is where investment comes in. So what is investment? In simple terms, it means putting money into the pocket. For example, சொல்லணும்னாக்க let's say ஒரு வீடு வாங்கணும்னு வச்சிருக்கலாம். உங்களுக்கு ஒரு வீடு வாங்கணும். you buy a house for 100,000 rupees and you want to rent it out. There are two ways to look at this as an investment and make money out of it. Firstly, it comes as rent. Let's say you're charging 830 rupees a month as rent. So that becomes 10,000 rupees after a year. In the oru varshadhula 10,000 rupees vandrum. So every year you make 10,000 rupees on rent, which is 10% of what you originally paid for the house. Illaya 100,000 rupees pay பண்ணிருக்கீங்க, 10,000 rupees வருதுனாக்க it's 10% of your value. So 10 years we would have paid off that 100,000 rupees that you had put in to buy the house. And after that, you keep making 10,000 rupees every year as profit. Secondly, it's an investment because the value of the house itself goes up. 100,000 rupees vaanginonaka, over the period of time, the value of the house goes up. So your house value will technically be doubled 10 years time. So every 10 year ku or doubling nadakum abdingarda technical analysis. So you have made money by rental income, but also made money by capital gains. In the capital gains என்னங்கிறது உங்களுக்கு ஸ்கிரீன்ல தெரியும். So in simple terms, when an asset increases over time, you gain capital. அதாவது ஒரு அசெட்கான ஒரு வேல்யூ இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆச்சுனாக்க அந்த கெயின் கேபிட்டல் கெயின் சொல்லுவாங்க. பட் இது ரியாலிட்டியில் பார்க்கணும்னா buying a house is not easy and simple, because unless we have quite a lot of money to buy the house, to give as an initial deposit, and to get a loan, and to get the house, and to manage the house, it's too much to start with. இல்லையா? So நீங்க கேட்கலாம், is there a better way to start investing without having a lot of money to start, and also without putting too much effort in managing the asset? And இந்த மாதிரி asset manage பண்ணணும், வீடு manage பண்ணணுங்கிற அந்த ஹெட்டேக்லாம் எல்லாமே நம்ம பண்ணலாம். So this is where investing in shares comes. What are shares? When you buy a share, you are actually buying part ownership of the company that you got share in. Adhudane shares. So for example, let's say Apple, our favorite company, have a particular profitable year because they made so much sales on their iPads and iPhones. Apple is feeling kind of happy and they are choosing to pay dividend. The dividend அப்படின்னா என்னங்கிறது உங்க ஸ்கிரீன்ல தெரியும். So they are choosing to pay dividend to their shareholders. So for example, let's say that they will issue a dividend of $1 million அப்படின்னு வச்சுக்கலாம், and that will be split evenly to all shareholders. So for example, if I own 1% of Apple shares, I will get 1% of the $1 million dividend, which is about $10,000. Actually, எனக்கு 1% Apple shareலாம் கிடையாது. இருந்தாக்க நான் தினரும் retire ஆயிருப்பேன். I don't think even Tim Cook owns 1% of Apple shares. This is just an example. So giving dividend is like returning some of the profit the company made to the shareholders. The second way of making money from shares is like house. You get into capital gains over time. So house கான என்ன capital gain வருதோ அதுதான் shares வரும். So for example, let's say you bought 10 Apple shares in 2010, and that time the share price was $10 னு வச்சுக்கலாம், which means you spent $100 to buy it, and today let's say the price is $150 per share. So your 10 shares are now worth $1,500. You paid only $100 for 10 shares 10 years ago. Ilya? So we spoke about what shares is and how to make money. You may have a question. How about how much money do we need to get started? So how do we buy shares? This is where it can get complicated because it is not easy. Like or Apple store poyo lati buying shares from apple.com/buy அப்படிங்கிற அந்த மாதிரியான ஆப்ஷனே கிடையாது. It doesn't work like that. Instead, you need to go through something called as broker. அந்த காலத்துல, in olden days, a stock broker would be a physical person. And the physical person will receive an order from you and will place the order in the market. Now there are several platforms available who acts like a broker. So என்ன பண்ணணும்னாக்கா, you make an online account in that broker platform and you can buy shares of that company through that. இப்போ நான் சொல்றது, it's not an recommendation but just telling you what is available in India market. There are online broker platforms like Upstocks, Zerodha, Grow அப்படிங்கிறதுலாம் இருக்கு. So before you open an investment account, அவங்க கூட there are few things that you need to understand, like, how do we decide what shares to buy? The easiest answer is, உங்களுக்கு தெரியணுங்கிற அவசியமே கிடையாது. You don't need to know which shares to buy. You don't need to buy individual shares. You can ask why is it not a good idea to invest in individual stocks. நம்ம அதை பற்றி ஒரு செப்பரேட் வீடியோவில் பேசலாம். But in summary, it is risky to invest in individual stocks because we don't have time to look at each and every individual company performance and decide which one to buy. நம்மளுக்கு டைம் கிடையாது ஒரு கம்பெனியை பார்த்து படித்து அவங்க எப்படி பர்ஃபார்ம் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க, எப்படி பண்ண போகிறாங்கன்னு பண்ணுறதுக்கு. ஸோ ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், ஒன் கம்பெனி might have grown 10 times in the past, but it doesn't mean that it will continue to grow the same level in the future. Correct? So the advice I want to give it to beginners is not to invest in individual stocks. You should invest in index funds. These are the best, safest, and easiest long-term investment strategy for most people. So what is index fund? We break it down into two parts, index and fund. So let's start with what fund is. Fund is basically where investors pool in their money. So multiple investors in the fund invest பண்ணுவாங்க. In the fund there will be a fund manager, and the fund manager will decide which companies the fund is going to invest in. So for example, let's say நான் ஒரு fund manage பண்றேன். Let's call it as Rohan. And 100 people invest in that fund now. I can say, okay, I've got 100 people's money. Let's say 100,000 rupees or dollars. So we will invest 10,000 each, and I have got now $100,000 or rupees. Yeah. So நான் என்ன பண்ணுவேன்? I'm going to put 20% in Apple, 20% in Tesla, 10% in Amazon, 10% in Facebook, 10% in Netflix, 10% in Tata, etc. So you as an investor don't need to worry about this because you trust me and the fund, Rohan, to manage your money. As the fund performs well, because the prices of these shares goes up over time. Yeah, and you get returns, and I as the fund manager would get 1% management fee for managing your money. So the main thing is, you have to trust the fund manager to manage your funds because you don't have to pick individual stocks to invest. This is what fund is. Now let's go to index. It refers to stock market index. So for example, Nifty 50 in India, FTSE 100 in the UK, or S&P 500 in the US, which is like the top 500 companies in America. So when you look at the overall performance of Nifty 50 or India, for example, you get the idea how well these 50 companies are performing and how well the country economy is going. If you look at the max graph, Nifty 50 it started in 1999, and since then the time that it was in stock market is what it looks like now. So you can see that there's a general upward trend over time. The graph பார்த்தாலே உங்களுக்கு தெரியும், அப்படியே மேலே போகிற மாதிரி தான் இருக்கும். இதில் பார்த்தாக்க there was a crash in 2008 because of the famous Lehman Brothers scandal. அது எவ்வளோ பேருக்கு தெரியும்னு தெரியல, பட் தெரியணும்னு ஆசைப்பட்டாக்க கூகுள் பண்ணி பாருங்க. அதே மாதிரி in 2020 there was a crash because of coronavirus, and the market recovered soon after that. Now we know what the fund is and what an index is as well. So when you combine them, you get index fund, which is a fund that automatically invests in all the companies in that index. So நீங்க என்ன எக்ஸாம்பிள் எடுத்துட்டாக்க, all of my investments are in S&P 500 and FTSE 100, which is basically the US and UK market. I do have tiny bits in crypto market as well. அது நம்ம இன்னொரு வீடியோவில் அப்புறம் கவர் பண்ணலாம். So it gives you a decent spread of your money in all these companies under this index fund. They also have low fees because it is not a real person anymore. It is an algorithm, computer algorithm that automatically allocates your money. Yeah? So it's generally low, and if there is a hike in fees, it will impact your financial outlook. For example, let's say your fees 0.1% அப்படின்னு நம்ம வச்சுக்கலாம் இந்த பிளாட்ஃபார்மில். பட் a fund manager charges 1% of your investment money அப்படின்னாக்க நீங்கள் you are paying almost 100 times more to the fund manager. Correct? So look at the platform which gives you a lower fees to manage your funds. So taking an advice from Warren Buffett, he says that if you give me $100,000, he will invest in these index funds than buying shares. So Warren Buffett இதுதான் பண்ணுவார். இதுதான் அட்வைஸ் கொடுக்கிறார். இப்போ நீங்க கேட்கலாம், you may ask, are you saying investment is not risky? Someone you know or your family would say or would have told you that instead of investing a lot of money in the market and losing all the money that you have invested, don't do that. அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம். Even your parents might tell you not to invest in funds because it is better to buy a real estate or a house. அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம். ஒன்று ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க, there is always this anxiety of what if I lose this money when I'm investing. The reason is that people don't look long term at all. They want quick wins and money overnight. I can tell you from experience that this won't work for short term. You generally lose money if you buy something and sell it for less than your original price. Correct? So ideally you should be putting this money in stock and funds if you're not going to need them for the next 5 or 10 years. Ipo we have discussed about investment and other things. Correct? Ipo natural question would be, Epo start pannalam? When do we start? How old should a person be to start this? The answer is simple. You should start investing as soon as possible. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how young you are. The earlier you start investing, the better it is. But before all this, you need to ensure that there is no outstanding loans, no debt, no credit card bills, no personal loans. Because when it comes to compounding, loss it compounds like gains. Profit marida, loss me compound agum. Which means what you get out of investment returns will be gone to the credit card bills and loans and other things that you have. So and also make sure that you have an emergency fund. Emergency pot that will keep you going for next 6 to 12 months. This is all in cash stored in your bank. This is bank deposit in vachikalam. This will cover your living expense, because let's say you lose your job or something happens that you need to have money for your family. So இது ரன் பண்றதுக்காக உங்களுக்கு கொஞ்சம் வேணும் இல்லையா பைசா, இது ரெக்கவர் பண்ற வரைக்கும் உங்களுக்கு பைசா வேணும். So you need to have this emergency fund that will keep you going for 6 to 12 months. Do not invest money that you need in 3 to 5 years time. For example, let's say you are 22 years old and you're thinking of buying a house, let's say in 2-3 years time. Then don't invest in fund, because there's no guarantee that the price will go up. However, long term it will. But no one can tell that if it will go up in 3 years or not. So make sure you do your bit of thinking on what I've said and start. How much money do I need to start investing in Keklaninga? You can research this based on your current circumstances. You can decide how much money you need. But all I can tell you is, it doesn't matter. Evlo paisa irukungradhu vishayame kediyadhu. The aim is to get started as soon as possible, because it builds you the habit of investing. An example, I started investing in 2011. Appo I knew nothing about it before that. I really wished I started much earlier when I was doing my part-time job. Anyway, I started in 2011 and still doing it. And it's now my habit to invest. So, idu pandradhukana vishayame to build your habit and to grow with this for long term. இப்போ நம்ம இந்த ஆன்லைன் brokers பத்தி கொஞ்சம் பிரீஃபா டச் பண்ணலாம். How to find them? ரெண்டு விஷயம். Look for 2 things. Google best online broker portal in India. You will find so many answers. அவங்களை பத்தி ரிவ்யூ படிங்க. Then go ahead and choose them. What you need to look for is, you want to be able to invest in these funds and you want the fees to be as low as possible. Correct? So after choosing them and setting up an account and stuff like that, start putting money here and there in these funds. So இது பண்ணுங்க. இதுவே உங்களோட passive growthக்கான ஒரு விஷயமா இருக்கும். இந்த இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட்ங்கிறது உங்களுக்கு கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமாக வந்து புரிய ஆரம்பிக்கும். Then you can start going into this in much more detail. So I hope this video has given you a reasonable introduction on how to get started as a beginner. Detailed videos வந்து நம்ம போக போக பண்ணலாம், பட் இது வந்து இட்ஸ் a starter kit மாதிரின்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. If you like to hear more about investment and dig deeper, send me your comments in the comment section and ping me in Instagram. So thank you so much for watching this video, and please make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe button, and please do share widely. Bye now.